Hello and welcome to the Randomly Generated History Club, where three non-historians pick a year at random and try to learn things about it. I'm Will and I'm here with my two friends, Ant and Anna.
Hi.
Welcome to 2023!
You're supposed to say hello according to the script.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hello!
Thank you. This week we're talking about the year 916.
A real banger.
Yeah, so much.
I'm always a bit confused as to how you're actually supposed to say years with only three numbers in them. Is it 916 acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to 916?
Yeah, I guess.
916?
Yeah.
I guess there's no other way to say it.
1000 minus 84.
Okay, fine, withdrawn. And as is our custom, I would like each of us to give a 3-word preview of what we are discussing today. Please, Ant.
Oh, God, I actually haven't studied for this test, but I'm going to say Flan the Man.
Great. I hope you talk about somebody named, like, Godfrey.
Oh, no, he's called Flan.
Okay. Fair enough.
And Anna.
My 3 words are harlots in charge.
Wow. So much to explore there.
Yep.
And mine are Norse raiding antics.
Oh, good.
He's back on his...
War.
Yep.
That old chestnut.
You mean history?
Yeah, I like to
right,
think
I'm
of
back
history
on
as a
history.
chestnut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Great.
This week I'm going to talk about Earl Ottir, also known as Count Otter, which is coincidentally also the name of a pet I had who was lost at sea when I was 7.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh no, Earl Otter.
I don't know why you're making a joke out of.
No,
it was actually quite a moving
that was a
experience for me.
historical reenactment.
Oh, I see.
That was
Oh,
a
yeah,
dramatic retelling.
I'll never let you go, Otter?
Yeah.
Is that what happened in the
Why wouldn't you just let him crawl up on the door
board
with
with you,
you
yeah,
while
yeah.
you're floating in the frigid waters?
It was more that he was swimming away as fast as he could in the other direction.
Freedom!
Earl Ottir was a jarl, which is just a Norse word for an earl, and he occupied a prominent position in the Norse of Britain and Ireland in the early 10th century. And he is believed to be the founder of a settlement which later became present-day Irish city of Waterford.
Ooh, is that where the crystal comes from?
It is exactly where the crystal comes from.
Wow.
And a blaas.
Excuse me?
It is a UNESCO heritage term for a flowery bap. Much like champagne can only be made in Champagne region, the blaas can only be made in Waterford.
The blah.
B-L-A, maybe a H at the end.
Boy, howdy, do they need some marketing advice
It's just a
there?
flowery bap.
Okay, I
That's
love
it.
a flowery bap.
Was that a placeholder name for... No. It found its way into the final draft.
Yeah.
You can have a savoury blaas, a jammy blaas, a sweet blaas.
Oh, sweet blah.
The priests give you their last blaas before you die.
Well, we are talking about pre-Blah Island, and in this period, from about 916 for the following couple of years, Ottir was a close associate of the powerful Over-King, Ragnal and Associates.
Oh my God.
And do you like that one?
I did like that one. We've had Overkings and Jarls before, but never have they existed in the same episode, so this is very exciting.
And this is the Overking of the Norse, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And the Norse at this point were raiding all around, like the north of Scotland, northeast of England a little bit, and the east of Ireland, so down the Irish Sea. So they were taking and
Pillaging.
and being in charge generally of lands around there. Yes, this is a Jarl and Overking working together. And so a lot of what we know about Ottir was recorded as a result of his closeness to Ragnal, although we don't think they're related or anything. We think they're just good friends.
Just buds.
Just close friends.
2 men who share a tent and their secrets.
And the chronicles add no further detail.
No.
Unfortunately. And in Ireland, Ottir is associated with raiding and generally being a bloody hassle in the province of Munster.
Yep.
And sources describe him raiding along the coast there with Ragnal and Associates.
Ragnal and Associates handled my last divorce, and they did not do a good job.
Oh, yeah, they really let you down, didn't they?
Yeah, no, it was,
You
yeah.
lost all your raided terrain.
I lost everything I'd ever pillaged.
Oh, so sad. I'm sorry. Because, of course, your ex-husband now owns half of Waterford, doesn't he?
Yes,
Yeah, he does,
Jarl,
yeah.
Jarl,
The Blah
Jarl
fortunes
Blah.
are his.
Yeah, oh my God. The Blah King of Waterford. That's could have been mine.
And a particular favourite target for them was the Viking settlement of Cork.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yes, so that was something they enjoyed focusing on, and they used to base themselves in what is present day Waterford Harbour for all their naughty raiding antics. And in the year in question, in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle describes their raid up the River Severn in Britain. Here, in this year, a great raiding ship army, and this, yes, that's right, ship army is the word being used there by the Chronicle. Yeah.
A ship
A
army.
wet war, yeah.
The great raiding ship army came over here from the south, from Brittany. Dubious
Probably
as to
not,
whether it came from
probably.
Brittany.
Yeah.
It probably didn't come from
Nah.
Brittany. And with them were two jarls, Ottir and Harald. I'm not really sure who Harald is.
Yeah, it's
First
not
time he's
important.
appeared.
Yeah, first and last time.
And went around west until they got into the mouth of the Severn and raided in Wales everywhere by the sea where it suited them, and took Camelac, Bishop of Arkenfield, and led him with them to their ships. And then King Edward ransomed him back for £40.
40 quid for a bishop.
princely sum.
So
Yeah.
So they're getting
bishoply sum.
up to all sorts of naughtiness.
Yeah.
and
Very
nonsense.
naughty. It's great.
A princely sum or a bishoply sum. Another chronicle scribe who is writing in what's known as the Worcester manuscript states that Ottir and Harald captured the bishop in 915, and that then the Jarls were killed that same year. And actually, it's a bit. It's the subject of some contestation as to exactly when he ended up dying. But their deaths occurred either, apparently, in the Battle of Kildane Field.
Appropriately named.
Yeah.
Well, no, sorry, they weren't Danes. They
No, but
kind of.
the Battle of Kildane Field, it turns out, was named after the fact that they were. It was the place of the death of a bunch of Danish raiders.
There you
Kildane,
go. Okay.
which is in Western Underpenned in Herefordshire. And Ottir, alternatively, according to another history, died in battle against Constantine II of Scotland
Ooh.
in 918. And he either joined forces with Ragnal, or alternatively, he might have led a separate expedition. So there's lots, basically, no one really has a clue.
Yeah, you know.
That was a thing I found in my research as
no one has a
well.
clue.
It's just literally like, maybe this happened, but maybe this happened, but maybe it was this. So it's a little bit of a choose your own adventure.
It really is.
here.
Choose your own history for sure.
And in the Annals of Ulster, there is a final choose-your-own-adventure for him. And in this version, it gives quite a detailed account and describes Ragnal as, quote, king of the dark foreigners.
Ooh.
And the two Jarls, Ottir and there's another guy here, Gragabai.
God, they just keep getting better. Oh my God.
And the two Jarls, Ottir and Gragabai, forsook Ireland and proceeded afterwards against the men of Scotland. The men of Scotland, moreover, moved against them, and they met on the bank of the Tyne in North Saxon land, which, of course, now isn't really in Scotland, but is further south than that. And that's where, alas, poor Count Ottir fell, according to the third version of the thing we've got.
Right, because if it wasn't there, then it was at the other place.
then one of the other
It's
two
at
or
the
something
other
like that.
place in the
Could
other
still
year.
be alive to this day.
Could still.
We just don't
We don't know. We don't
Anyway,
know where he's buried.
At some point in 918, it turns out he probably died.
Okay.
And so there
Which
you have
is
it.
great because the year we're talking about today is 916.
And anyway, that's Ottir, an interesting naughty Norse raiding man.
That is excellent. I want to apologize for being so callous about the loss of your Ottir as a youth.
Rip.
Rip.
We will remember him.
We will remember Earl Ottir.
We'll get the full story.
I still had Countess Otter.
Of course you did.
This episode, I'm doing something quite tangentially related to that because I'm going to be talking about a guy called Flann Sinna, who was the king of Meath and the High King of Ireland, and he died in 1916. And it's kind of a tale of two men. There's Flann the king and his buddy Neil, which we'll come on to in a bit. But first of all, there's a whole lot of names, a lot of misunderstanding back and forth and stuff. When we say king, there's loads of local tribes and areas and basically kind of two powerhouses, the O'Neills. But Flann Sinna, or Flann of the Shannon, was the son of the previous High King of Ireland, and he inherited the throne, was King of Meath, which was a very powerful place from 877 onwards, and then he was appointed High King of Ireland as well as King of Tara. So he kind of united these belts, as it were.
What's Tara? Sorry.
So Tara is a ancient hill in Ireland that was a epicenter for coronation of crowned kings of Tara. Normally it was nobles would come along there, and there's lots of historical digs and stuff there and loads of burial mounds. It was like, if you were the king of Tara, you were inevitably a very powerful person.
Oh, sidebar. Scarlet O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, her family plantation estate is called Tara. Okay. And if her name is Scarlet O'Hara, you imagine maybe there was an Irish...
Could be some connection.
Huh.
Yeah, and
flag for follow-up.
Yeah, the highest ranked king was normally the King of Tara, and there was also the High King of Ireland, which was a separate title that was normally divided year after year. King after king, it was changed hands from the north and the south O'Neills, but he united those two. And the Hill of Tara is a very significant part of Irish history. Lots of like steeped lore and etc. there, and it's a seat of power.
Steeped lore, steep hill.
Steep hill, the steeper the hill, the steeper the lore. That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, that's the rule.
But Flann is a very interesting character, and he was a highly successful king, not just through conquest or diplomacy, but also through propaganda. And so why he was so known about is because he installed all these high crosses throughout Ireland that inscribed on them and proclaimed him as King of Ireland, him and his heirs and descendants and stuff. So he erected everywhere all these sort of milestones,
saying like King was here.
Yeah. What are the rules on that? Doing that now? What do you know? What company he used?
A check a trade. Probably you could do that. Crucifix builders, really. Any Freemasons out there? Or stonemasons, not Freemasons. Probably Freemasons too.
They're
probably potentially both could be helpful.
He also had a chief poet, which was very handy.
Love that for him.
He would write poems and spread them about and sort of spread that propaganda of him like slaying demons and blah blah, all that kind of good stuff. And I have an extract from one of his poems.
Yes, it's actually been so long since we've had poetry on the podcast.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is very coherent poetry though, because it's translated from the original Irish or Gaelic into English, and it's called Flan Over Ireland.
Right.
I am imagining a flan over Ireland, and it's good.
Flan over Ireland in the fortunate house of Tuathail Teachmar, to whom the patrimony of a noble warrior with mighty valour is no excess. May his kingship be healthy, may it be everlasting, a course as far as the fringes. No king that will be more wonderful will seize hilltop or brega. Let us bend our knees, let us raise our hands, performance without diminution, so that the family line I vaunt may be everlasting. Flan over Ireland.
Wow.
Real catchy.
That was, They
didn't have like The Sopranos or anything to watch, so everyone was just reading this.
I can't really see that being worked into like a football chant, but
no, definitely not. All was not rosy though. As with all things in Irish history, things were quite complex, quite back and forth fighting. No one, took anyone's claims of power at all seriously if it didn't suit them. He also liked to sort of do some raids, and his favourite thing when he came to power, first of all, was take hostages. He also liked to burn the nobles of his enemies alive in the buildings that he captured. Oops. So, he wasn't all poetry and, stonemasonry. He was, a bit fighty as well. He went on as well to quash the Bray Féine, and then him and his son Doncha, or Donica perhaps, ravaged the lands southern Connacht, including the pillaging and sacking of many churches were a little bit taboo. How can you erect crosses in one hand and sack churches in there? He wasn't a fortunate man though in some regards. 2 of his sons died during his lifetime.
Flan the Sandman.
And 2 of the sons that did remain rebelled against him, but were forced back into obedience by his BFF, Neil. And though this is where another character comes in, Neil Blackney Glundoob.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely sure.
Glundoob
of the clan Glundoob. Yeah. His grandfather was King of the Scots. He was the son of the former Irish King Aed, and he was just a confidant and of the king, and so he was able to sort of bring the sons back in line. He also helped secure a truce between Flann and the King of Breda, which is a very powerful faction. And he was so close, in fact, that he was actually named heir to the throne after he died. So rather than the 2 sons, he was going to get
another very good friend.
Another very good friend.
Very close friend, I would say. What a globulin.
Yeah. It's not globulin, it's glundube.
Okay, well.
Glundube. So Flann did die shortly afterwards in the year in question, which is
916.
Definitely 916. And when he did die, subsequently the joint title of King of Tara and the High King and King Mida split. So the King of Tara went to Neil. He became the new king of this sort of
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill, sacrosanct.
Yeah.
And then his son took on the
Flann
rest of the Flan's son, Duncan.
Interesting.
And that's sort of where the history books run out, you might think, except there is more in the lovely ancient Irish poem called The Prophecy of Brecon, which is really long, translated very badly, and you can look at some excerpts on Google Docs if you really want to and tell me how wrong I am, but good luck, because I completely ran out of steam after trying to memorize all the names and shenanigans of this stuff.
Yeah. Can we get that name one more time?
The poem.
Yeah.
The Prophecy of Brecon. Bercha father accent N.
Okay.
There you go.
I think there'll be people Googling that.
Furiously.
All over the world.
Yeah.
As they listen to this.
We should look
Please
at
do.
Google. Google Trends is going to have a major spike on the prophecy of Brecon.
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 Okay, I don't speak.
You're murdering a beautiful language.
I'm so sorry.
You're cast out from the Glundubes.
Oh my God, the greatest shame is not being welcomed by the Glundubes. Excellent. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Also, thank you.
Also, thank you.
Wow. It's just a time of Thanksgiving here. I'm thankful for harlots. Now, I want everyone to know that I mean harlots in a very positive sense. This tale that I'm about to tell is about women being in charge.
Yeah.
And then the men who were pissed off about that and slandered them later in history.
Onlyharlots.com.
Well, Google at your own risk.
Actually, maybe don't. Maybe we should cut that out. I'm going to quickly Google that in case that's a thing.
So I am in the Papal States today, which are in absolute disarray. And this, basically the 10th century, is considered by many Vatican historians to be just the absolute low point of Vatican history, which is really saying something.
That's saying a lot, considering the recent history of the Vatican City.
Yeah, that's true. I guess most of the people saying that it was the low point were not alive to see later low points. But I do want to caveat up front that a lot of this history is disputed, and I'm going to get into the rationale behind that a bit, but in general, misogyny. So as usual, take everything with a grain of salt. So I'd like to start today by talking about Sergius III, who became Pope in 904, and who I saw referred to as, quote, that cursed Sergius, a man, the slave of all vices, and the most wicked of all men.
He sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, he got up to some good times.
Oh, the shenanigans.
For instance, he reportedly ordered the murder of his two predecessors in the papacy and possibly fathered an illegitimate son who later became pope. More on that in a bit, but all in all, I think we can all agree, one of the greats, pope-wise. Now, you may wonder why such a bad man was made pope. Or you may have read some history before and not be at all surprised. The answer is a family of corrupt aristocrats in Italy called the Theophylacti.
Sorry, aristocrats called the philo...
Aristocrats called the Theophylacti.
The proto-Medicis.
Which does sound like a dinosaur now that I say it
actually
out loud and probably mispronounce it. But this family, they were the real power behind the throne for about a century. And in that time, they essentially handpicked all of the popes. And the popes, of course, wielded immense power throughout Europe, meaning that this family was the real power in Europe. The head of the family is a man named Theophylact, which
sounds like a cream.
It really does. And
ask your doctor about Theophylact.
Side effects may include papacy. But I want to focus more on Theophylact's wife, Theodora, and their daughter, Marosia. Now, Theodora had the title of senatrix, as in the feminine senator.
Cool.
Even though, of course, the Roman Empire, as like Roman Senate, is long gone at this point. But she called herself senatrix. And Serenissima Nope. Let me try that one again. Serenissima Vestaratrix of Rome.
What does that mean?
I don't know. The serenest vestator.
I mean, I will remind you that this is your segment.
I know. I probably should have looked that one up before I put it in. But regardless, I would like you to call me that here on out. There's not a lot written about Theodora, but what does exist paints her as this kind of Lady Macbeth. So she's overshadowing her husband. She's manipulating the power wielded by her family. Some people think that's cool. We love to see powerful women behind the throne. And some people did not think that. Specifically, the historian Liutprand called her, quote, a shameless whore who exercised power on the Roman citizenry like a man, which is, of course, the highest possible offense at this time in history or in most other times in history.
That's pretty straightforward damning.
Yeah.
There's no mincing words there.
No, he's really, we're throwing the W word around a lot.
Woman.
Woman. I'm just going to get it out of the way and say that Theodora did die in 916.
Okay,
So
good.
Tick the box.
Ticked.
I think all three of us chose a death this year, which says a lot about 916. But the story around Theodora and her family is too interesting to just be confined to that year. So some historians believe that Theodora suggested the two popes who followed Sergius, and she made her husband make it happen. And then in 914, she made her husband support her lover as pope, and he became Pope John X. John X, possibly the lover of Theodora. This is disputed. It's possible that John was not her lover, but was instead just some guy that was related to her and her husband. Basically, history agrees that there's some connection, but they can't decide how scandalous it is. But that's not as interesting. So let's assume that he was her lover. The most common allegation against Theodora is that she promoted a relationship between her daughter, Marosia, and Pope Sergius III. Yeah. Remember him of the extreme wickedness. At the time that relationship would have started, Marosia would have been about 15 or 16, and Sergius was in his 40s.
Nice.
So we hate that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But these are also kind of the things that you would write about.
Yeah.
You know, a woman that you were trying to disparage.
Of course.
As well, right? So
No,
you're like,
definitely.
oh, did you hear that she's sleeping with the Pope? You know, like, so how much faith can we put in this?
Yeah, well, I'll get into that because it is actually, there is a reason why this later historian was so biased against them. But, and in fact, nobody is sure exactly when Sergius was born. So the age gap may have been slightly less revolting, but it was still pretty bad.
Yeah.
So Marosia was his concubine for years and allegedly had a child with him. And this is just a sidebar to say that there is an excellent Wikipedia page called List of Sexually Active Popes. Which I think is
this a true fact?
List of sexually active popes is a Wikipedia page and also is a great band
We
name.
should just do a whole separate podcast on that.
I know, we really should. Spoiler alert, there are a lot of them.
Are there really?
Yeah. So Google in your own time. But continuing in the vein of her parents, Marosia was the de facto ruler of Rome. She wanted to promote her own son as pope. Now, she definitely had a son. Whether or not he was the love child of her and Pope Sergius is up for debate. Mm-hmm. She was also married, so he could have just been her son from marriage. But let's assume that he was the love child of the Pope. So here's where it gets really scandalous. In 928, Marosia has Pope John X murdered. John X, who had allegedly been her mother's lover.
Yes.
And she installed her own son in his place. He became the very creatively named Pope John XI.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she murdered her mother's alleged lover pope and replaced him with her own son, who was himself the love child of a different pope.
God, this is very, very trash TV.
I know, it's like Scandal. It's so good.
I mean, I want to believe.
I want to believe, and I do believe everything that I've just said. So with all this going on, you can possibly understand why later historians called this period the Saeculum Obscurum, or the Dark Century. But I would love it if you guys could guess the more creative and, let's say, salacious name that later historians gave it. The name that historians gave it was...
The Seed of the Holy Seed?
Oh, no, that's
Something
good,
like that?
though. That's really good.
Yeah.
They didn't go on a holy see pun. No, they just called it the pornocracy.
They really?
They really did. They really call it the pornocracy because the Greek word porny means prostitute. So, of course, that's where we get pornography.
Is
and that's
that
the root
really?
of, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That is one I did bother to look up just to see. So they call it the pornocracy or the rule of the harlots. And in the words of a later historian, these women in their fornications and in their marriages surpassed the common wickedness of mankind.
I mean,
They're just
That's
ladies.
terrible.
They're just ladies doing lady things.
Ladies doing lady things.
But as I've said, there is a big asterisk over all of this because of misogyny, but also because the chief chronicler of all of this was this guy, Liutprand, who I mentioned earlier. He was writing 50 years after it all happened. So immediately, he's not super contemporary, but he was incredibly biased against the Theophylacti, this corrupt aristocratic family, and their allies, because he was a huge supporter of the Holy Roman Emperor who was fighting the papacy at the time. So the Theophylacti are choosing all the popes. This historian supports the guy who is opposed to those popes. So of course he's going to be super biased. There are gender politics at play merely by alleging that Theodora was an adulteress and by calling her a harlot and saying she was using her feminine wiles to control her husband. They're all just ways to cast aspersions on the Theophylacti.
Well, it's her fault for being a woman
in history.
with any agency whatsoever.
I know. Had she just been nice and not let her name be recorded in history.
Yeah.
She put men in a very difficult position where they then had to write her name down, which is very upsetting for men.
So upsetting for men. And so upsetting. And then not only that, she had the audacity to do some things that caused more
other
historians to write about her.
Yes.
Oh, it's just awful.
I'm on
How
team
dare she?
Theodora here. I'm going to have a Scarlet T on my...
No, I'm obviously incredibly pro Theodora and Marosia, and I really do like to think that there must be some truth to it all, because there was just an incredible amount of turnover in the Vatican in the 10th century. And, the church has gone through periods of, let's say, less than angelic activity.
What? Name one thing. One thing.
I again refer you to lists of sexually active popes.
Your ex-husband was the Pope, wasn't he? The one that Ragnal and Associates.
He was, Ragnal and Associates did handle that divorce, which was great. Yeah. Ironically, my lawyer there was named Theodora.
Well, I do miss JP. He was good crack, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a good one. He had a good smiley
JP
face.
the sec. Well, as your husband as
JP
well.
too.
Yeah, he was great in the grill. Remember every time we used to come around your place, you'd have a...
He loved a barbecue.
He loved a barbecue.
He loved a barbecue.
Really was.
Get the slip and slide out.
No matter the weather.
No matter the weather, he was outside. He was grilling.
He was.
He had a kiss the cook.
Yeah.
And a kiss the Pope.
He could swap
he swapped
aprons.
him, depending on how feisty he was feeling.
His ability to keep his hat on when he went down the slip and slide was phenomenal, wasn't
It's
it?
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say he had a head like nobody else's that was made for a mitre. Wait, that's what a bishop wears. That's what a pope wears.
Yeah.
Hats. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and cut this train of thought off. That is just a little story about the family Theophylacti and the powerful women who were actively involved with the papacy through some way or another.
Well, I found that genuinely really interesting.
It's cool, right? And there are so many famous Theodoras in history, including, in fact, the one that was married to Justinian, who we've talked about.
Yeah.
And
Incorrectly talked about.
Talked about in the wrong century, millennium. But they... not all of them are as scandalous as this one, but I really enjoyed the idea of this mother-daughter pair just kind of
that no pope could resist.
Yeah, running the show
So cool.
in 916 and thereabouts.
Yeah, well, there you have it. That's the second half of the decade 910s.
Thanks for joining us. That's everything you'd ever need to know about the year 916. And also, this is a new year. New Year's resolutions are a thing. If you're feeling guilty for not sending us a Christmas present,
Which you should.
you really should.
You should have.
It was a
You should feel guilty. You should have sent us a present.
my
Yes.
tree was barren. But a great gift would be
Well,
to
just hang on, sorry, just a barren tree.
Yeah, well, I was expecting.
Other people won't decorate your tree for you.
I was hoping for Christmas decorations for my.
You're just waiting there staring at this barren tree.
Yeah, willing it into action.
A great gift would be to leave us a 5-star rating. If you could, that'd be great, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever. And also write a little review, because that really, really helps other people to find the podcast, and so they can listen and have fun and
true.
shenanigans. And who knows, maybe you'll find the person of your dreams.
I don't think that the podcast review scene is much of a single
No, but
episode.
to be clear, if people were to join our Patreon, patreon.com/randomlyhistory, they could come to one of our quizzes.
They could.
And they have proven very sociable in the past.
Well, as we've talked about several times in this episode, I am divorced thanks to the efforts of Ragnal and Associates.
They're famously divorced. So especially if I don't know, maybe if you're a pope and listening. We do actually have one listener in Vatican City. Fact.
Oh, that's very cool.
That is cool.
I think we can just assume that
Must
it
be
is
the
the Pope. That's excellent. So, Pope Francis, if you haven't given us a rating, just give us 5 stars. Come on.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we will uphold our end of the bargain, by which I mean choose another year. So, Will, can you please boot it up?
Absolutely. And as a reminder, we've chosen to select. Well, I say we've chosen.
No, there's
been
no
chosen
choice.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. We have inherited the parameters.
Indeed. In accordance with the customs of the club.
Yes.
Using the latest technology available. We are confined to the years of 1000 BCE to 2000 CE. And the next year is 1347.
1347.
It's a bit plaguey, isn't it?
Quite plaguey.
Bit plaguey.
I reckon.
That's solidly in my wheelhouse in terms of what was going
it?
on in North Africa.
Well, we all know the Black Plague was manufactured to sell more vaccine.
I've read that, yes. Yeah, in some of the darker corners
Brilliant.
of the internet.
Well, look forward to next week when you'll hear about some probably fairly high quality history about North Africa and Ant's thoughts on conspiracies about the plague.
'Twas ever thus.
Right, see you next week.
Bye.